The silent drift. How negativity can steal your joy, and what you can do about it. Aging is often portrayed as a graceful journey, filled with wisdom, nostalgia, and the quiet comfort of a life well lived. But what happens when that journey takes an unexpected turn? What happens when the vibrant, optimistic person you once were starts to feel weighed down by cynicism, frustration, and negativity? It's not something we talk about openly, yet it's a reality many seniors face as they navigate the complexities of growing older. Negativity can creep into our lives like a shadow, subtle at first, but over time, it grows darker, heavier, and harder to shake off. And if left unchecked, it has the power to push people away, damage relationships, and steal the joy from even the simplest moments. Let me introduce you to Sarah, a woman whose story might sound eerily familiar. Sarah was never one to dwell on the negative. She prided herself on being honest, straightforward, and unafraid to speak her mind. In her younger years, she was known for her sharp wit and her ability to cut through superficialities. But as the decades passed, something shifted. The world around her seemed to change faster than she could keep up with, and the frustrations of aging began to pile up. At first, it was small things, a groan about her aching knees in the morning, a muttered complaint about how kids these days didn't have any respect. Then came the deeper grievances, political unrest, societal changes, and the sense that everything she valued was slipping away. Before long, Sarah found herself trapped in a cycle of negativity, unaware of how much it was costing her. The invisible toll of negativity. Negativity doesn't just affect the person expressing it. It ripples outward, touching everyone within earshot. Imagine sitting across from someone who constantly complains about their health, criticizes others, or laments the state of the world. How do you feel after spending time with them? Energized? Inspired? Probably not. More likely, you feel drained, anxious, or even a little defeated. That's because negativity is contagious. But unlike a cold or flu, it spreads insidiously, infecting our thoughts and emotions without us realizing it. For Sarah, this shift wasn't immediate. It started with small habits, waking up each day and immediately cataloging her aches and pains, tuning into the news and fixating on every alarming headline, or dismissing new technologies and trends as evidence that the world was going downhill. These behaviors may have felt harmless at first, but over time, they added up. Conversations with friends became shorter and less frequent. Family gatherings turned into monologues where Sarah aired her grievances while others nodded politely, eager for the conversation to move on. Even her grandchildren, once eager to spend hours listening to her stories, began making excuses to avoid visiting. What Sarah failed to realize was that negativity acts as a barrier, a wall between herself and the people she cared about most. No matter how justified her complaints might have seemed, no one wants to leave a conversation feeling worse than when they arrived. Over time, her loved ones began to withdraw, leaving Sarah feeling increasingly isolated. Yet instead of recognizing the role her own attitude played in this dynamic, she doubled down, convinced that the world itself had become a colder, harsher place. Why does negativity take hold so easily? To understand why negativity can take root so deeply, especially in later life, we need to consider the unique challenges faced by seniors. Aging brings with it a host of physical, emotional, and psychological changes. Bodies that were once strong and agile now require extra care. Tasks that used to be second nature, like driving, cooking, or navigating technology, can suddenly feel overwhelming. Add to that the loss of independence, the passing of loved ones, and the realization that time is finite. And it's easy to see why some individuals retreat into bitterness or despair. But here's the thing, negativity isn't inevitable. While it's natural to feel frustrated or disheartened at times, allowing those feelings to dominate your mindset is a choice, one that comes with significant consequences. Studies show that chronic negativity doesn't just harm relationships, it also impacts mental and physical health. People who habitually focus on the negative are more likely to experience stress, anxiety, and depression. They're also at greater risk for cardiovascular issues, weakened immune systems, and cognitive decline. In short, negativity doesn't just rob you of happiness, it can literally shorten your lifespan, breaking free from the cycle. So, how do you break free from the grip of negativity? The good news is that it's entirely possible with awareness, effort, and a willingness to embrace change. Here are some practical steps you can take to shift your energy and rediscover the joy in everyday life. Start with gratitude. Gratitude is one of the most powerful antidotes to negativity. Instead of focusing on what's wrong, try shifting your attention to what's right. Each morning, take a moment to reflect on 3 things you're grateful for. Maybe it's the warmth of the sun on your face, the kindness of a neighbor, or the simple pleasure of a good cup of coffee. By training yourself to notice the positives, you'll begin to see them everywhere, even in the smallest details of daily life. Limit complaints. Complaining can be cathartic, but only in moderation. If you find yourself venting frequently, challenge yourself to set boundaries. For example, give yourself 2 minutes to express your frustrations, then consciously redirect your thoughts to something constructive. Over time, this practice will help rewire your brain to focus on solutions rather than problems. Cultivate curiosity. One of the quickest ways to combat negativity is to approach life with curiosity rather than criticism. Instead of dismissing something unfamiliar, whether it's a new app, a cultural trend, or a different perspective, ask questions. Say things like, "Tell me more about that," or "Help me understand why this matters to you." Not only will this open up opportunities for connection, but it will also remind you that there's always something new to learn. Surround yourself with positivity. The company you keep plays a huge role in shaping your outlook. Seek out people who uplift and inspire you. Those who radiate positivity and encourage you to see the best in situations. Likewise, limit your exposure to toxic influences, whether it's negative news cycles, pessimistic friends, or social media feeds that leave you feeling worse than before. Social connections are key. Practice self-compassion. Find joy in small moments. Embrace change. Reflect on legacy. Celebrate wins. Laugh more. Stay active. Number 12. Losing touch with curiosity. Curiosity is often described as the spark that keeps life vibrant. Yet it's one of the first things many seniors unintentionally let slip away. As we age, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking we've already learned everything we need to know. After all, decades of experience have given us wisdom, right? While that's true to an extent, closing ourselves off to new ideas and experiences can leave us feeling stagnant and disconnected from the world around us. Take Margaret, for example, a retired teacher who spent her career inspiring young minds. In her youth, she was known for her insatiable curiosity. She read voraciously, traveled widely, and always had a question ready for anyone willing to share their knowledge. But as retirement settled in, Margaret found herself retreating into familiar routines. Her bookshelves gathered dust, her passport expired, and conversations became repetitive loops of nostalgia. Without realizing it, she had stopped seeking out newness, and her world began to shrink. The problem with losing curiosity isn't just about missing out on intellectual stimulation. It's about losing touch with the essence of what makes life exciting. Curiosity fuels connection, creativity, and purpose. When we stop asking questions, we risk becoming spectators in our own lives, watching the world pass us by instead of actively participating in it. Why does curiosity fade? There are several reasons why curiosity tends to wane as we grow older. For one, the demands of daily life, work, family, health concerns can overshadow our desire to explore. Over time, these responsibilities shape our priorities, leaving little room for wonder. Additionally, fear of the unknown or discomfort with change can make stepping outside our comfort zones feel daunting. It's easier to stick with what we know than to venture into uncharted territory. But perhaps the most insidious reason is self-doubt. Many seniors begin to question whether they're too old to learn something new or try something different. This mindset creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. Believing you're incapable of learning stifles your motivation to even attempt it. How to reignite curiosity. The good news is that curiosity is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. Here are some practical ways to reignite that spark. Ask questions. Start small by asking questions about things you don't understand. Whether it's a new gadget, a trending topic, or a cultural phenomenon, approach it with genuine interest. Say things like, "Can you explain that to me?" Or, "What do you find interesting about this?" You might be surprised at how much joy comes from discovering something unfamiliar. Try something new. Challenge yourself to step outside your routine. Take up a hobby you've always been curious about: painting, gardening, cooking, or even coding. Enroll in a class or workshop designed for lifelong learners. Many community centers and online platforms offer affordable options tailored to seniors. Travel, even virtually. If physical travel isn't feasible, consider virtual exploration. Thanks to technology, you can tour museums, attend global events, or join international discussions without leaving home. These experiences can broaden your horizons and remind you of the vastness of the world. When Margaret decided to embrace curiosity again, she started small. She subscribed to a podcast about space exploration, something she'd never considered before. From there, she joined a local astronomy club, where she met people half her age who shared her newfound passion. Slowly but surely, her world expanded once more, filling her days with excitement and discovery. Number 13. Neglecting emotional vulnerability. As we age, societal expectations often pressure us to appear strong, stoic, and self-reliant. Admitting vulnerability, or worse, showing emotion, can feel like admitting weakness. Yet emotional vulnerability is not a flaw. It's a cornerstone of meaningful relationships and personal growth. Unfortunately, many seniors struggle to express their feelings openly, leading to isolation and unresolved emotional burdens. Consider Harold, a widower in his late 70s. After losing his wife, he threw himself into work around the house and avoided talking about his grief. To those around him, he seemed resilient. Inside, however, Harold was drowning in loneliness and regret. His reluctance to open up created a barrier between him and his children, who desperately wanted to support him but didn't know how. Why is vulnerability so hard? For many seniors, vulnerability feels risky because it exposes parts of ourselves we've worked hard to protect. Decades of conditioning, whether from cultural norms, past traumas, or personal pride, teach us to suppress emotions rather than confront them. This suppression may serve as a temporary shield, but over time, it erodes our ability to connect deeply with others. Moreover, aging brings unique challenges that can amplify emotional barriers. The loss of loved ones, declining health, and shifting roles within families can trigger feelings of inadequacy or fear. Rather than addressing these emotions head-on, many seniors retreat further into themselves, mistakenly believing they must face these struggles alone. The power of emotional vulnerability. Opening up emotionally doesn't mean airing every private thought or burdening others with your pain. Instead, it's about sharing authentically and allowing yourself to be seen. Vulnerability fosters trust, empathy, and intimacy, all essential components of healthy relationships. Here's how to practice emotional vulnerability. Start small. Begin by expressing simple emotions like gratitude or admiration. Tell someone, "I really appreciate you," or "Your kindness means so much to me." These small acts build confidence and pave the way for deeper conversations. Seek support. Surround yourself with people who value honesty and authenticity. Join a support group, talk to a therapist, or confide in a trusted friend. Knowing you have a safe space to share your thoughts can make vulnerability less intimidating. Write it down. Journaling is a powerful tool for processing emotions. Write letters to loved ones, even if you don't send them. Reflect on your feelings or document moments of joy and sorrow. Putting pen to paper helps clarify your thoughts and reduces emotional weight. Harold eventually took a leap of faith and attended a grief counseling session. At first, he felt awkward and exposed, but as he listened to others share their stories, he realized he wasn't alone. Slowly, he began opening up to his children, sharing memories of his wife and acknowledging his pain. The result? A renewed sense of closeness and understanding that transformed his relationships. Number 14, failing to set boundaries. Boundless generosity is often celebrated as a virtue, especially among seniors who have spent decades caring for others. However, failing to set boundaries can lead to burnout, resentment, and strained relationships. Many seniors struggle to say no, fearing they'll disappoint others or appear selfish. But healthy boundaries aren't about rejection. They're about preserving your energy and prioritizing your well-being. Meet Evelyn, a grandmother who prided herself on being available for everyone. Her children called her whenever they needed babysitting. Her neighbors leaned on her for favors, and her church relied on her for volunteer work. On the surface, Evelyn seemed content, but beneath the surface, she was exhausted. She rarely had time for herself, and her resentment toward those she helped grew quietly but steadily. Why are boundaries important? Boundaries protect your mental, emotional, and physical health. They ensure that you have the energy to care for yourself while still offering support to others. Without boundaries, you risk becoming overwhelmed, which ultimately diminishes your capacity to help anyone. Unfortunately, setting boundaries can feel uncomfortable, especially for seniors accustomed to putting others first. There's often guilt associated with saying no, coupled with worries about damaging relationships. But the truth is, people respect boundaries far more than we anticipate. Clear communication fosters mutual respect and prevents misunderstandings. How to establish healthy boundaries. Creating boundaries requires intentionality and practice. Here's how to get started. Know your limits. Reflect on what drains you versus what energizes you. Identify areas where you feel stretched too thin and commit to protecting those spaces. Communicate clearly. Be direct but kind when setting boundaries. Instead of saying, "I'm too tired to help," try, "I'd love to assist, but I need to take care of myself right now." Framing your needs positively minimizes defensiveness. Practice saying no. Saying no is a skill that improves with repetition. Start with low-stakes situations, like declining an invitation you're not interested in. Over time, you'll gain confidence in asserting your needs. Evelyn finally decided to implement boundaries after a particularly exhausting week. She politely declined a few babysitting requests, explained her need for rest, and carved out time for activities she enjoyed. To her surprise, her family understood and even encouraged her decision. By prioritizing her well-being, Evelyn rediscovered her zest for life and strengthened her relationships in the process.